All right, so we're really diving into George Orwell this time.
Yeah.
You've brought like a whole stack of his books, not just 1984.
Right.
We're talking Animal Farm, essays, even his first-hand account of the Spanish Civil War.
Absolutely.
So clearly you're looking for something a lot deeper than just like a summary of what happens in the book.
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting about this particular deep dive is we have the opportunity to kind of hold up the fiction to the light of reality.
Okay.
Because we're also looking at some of his nonfiction and autobiographical work.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're holding up his novels to the light and asking, okay, what really happened to this guy to make him write this?
Okay, let's unpack that then.
Yeah.
We're starting with a young Eric Blair. Before he even adopted that pen name, George Orwell.
Right.
And like his descent into poverty.
Yeah.
Documented so vividly and down and out in Paris and London.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just about being poor, is it?
No, it's about the feeling of having your social standing stripped away.
Right.
Remember that description of like the weight of wearing clothes that mark you as lower class?
Yeah.
Those details, I think, paint a more powerful picture of poverty's impact than any statistic ever could.
And that encounter with his so-called friend Boris.
Oh, yeah.
Who's always scheming but can barely afford a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And maybe think about how like poverty distorts your perception of everything.
Right. Yeah.
Like even empty promises can start to sound like a lifeline.
Precisely. When you're constantly grappling with that deprivation,
Yeah.
hope itself becomes a form of currency.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned connecting the dots.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
We move from the personal poverty of Down and Out to the road to Wigan Pier.
Yes.
Where Orwell immerses himself in the systemic poverty of industrial England. What struck me was his description of those coal miners.
Right.
They're risking their lives daily for a pittance.
Yeah.
Living in conditions most of us can't even fathom.
Right.
And yet there's this acceptance.
Yes.
How does Orwell capture that so well?
He really, I think he taps into that human capacity for adaptation.
Yeah.
Even in the face of like real hardship.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about those miners emerging from the pit.
Yeah.
Faces caked in coal dust after hours spent literally crawling to and from the coal face that wasn't even considered part of their paid workday.
Right.
Can you imagine the toll that takes not just physically, but mentally and emotionally?
Yeah, it makes you realize how much our concept of work has changed.
Oh, absolutely.
Today we complain about long emails.
Right.
And these men were risking their lives daily in unimaginable conditions.
Yeah, and I think this is where Orwell's own background adds another layer to this.
Okay.
He wasn't writing from a place of complete detachment.
Yeah.
He'd experienced a taste of that hardship firsthand.
Right. That dissonance he always seemed to feel.
Yeah.
Even within his own upper middle class upbringing.
Exactly.
It's like he was always looking at society from the outside in.
That outsider perspective is crucial.
Yeah.
Because it allowed him to see the systems at play.
Yeah.
The power dynamics that created and perpetuated this inequality. He wasn't just witnessing poverty, he was dissecting it.
Which brings us to perhaps one of the most pivotal points in his life and writing.
Absolutely.
The Spanish Civil War. Orwell wasn't content to just read about revolution.
Right.
He felt compelled to experience it firsthand.
He did.
What was it about that conflict, would you say,
Yeah.
that fueled his later work?
I think it's the fact that he went in with these ideals.
Okay.
You know, imagine arriving in Spain, idealistic and ready to fight fascism, only to witness the events of the Barcelona May Days.
Yeah.
Here were supposed allies, anarchists, communists, turning on each other in a bloody struggle for power.
Wow.
It shattered, I think, a lot of Orwell's illusions about revolution and exposed the seductive nature of ideology.
Right.
You know?
He describes this overwhelming sense of chaos.
Oh, yeah.
And disillusionment.
Yeah.
This feeling that everyone is manipulating the narrative with propaganda.
Absolutely.
It's like witnessing the birth of the Ministry of Truth from 1984 in real time.
Exactly. The Spanish Civil War was Orwell's crash course in the mechanics of mass manipulation.
Yeah.
He saw how easily language could be weaponized.
Right.
How truth became whatever the powerful dictated it to be.
Wow.
That experience left an undeniable mark on his worldview.
Right.
And his writing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that moment when the curtain gets pulled back and you see the machinery of power operating in plain sight.
Yeah.
No wonder it shook him.
And that really, I think, directly fueled one of his most brilliant and unsettling works.
Okay.
Animal Farm. Okay.
On the surface, it's this simple allegory
Right?
with talking animals.
Yeah.
You could almost read it to a kid as a children's story.
Yeah.
But beneath that,
Yeah.
it's a searing critique of revolutionary ideals gone wrong.
It is. You see those pigs,
Yes.
initially portrayed as liberators,
Right.
gradually morph into the very tyrants they swore to overthrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like watching history repeat itself
Yeah.
in a farmyard.
And the way he uses those animal characters,
Right.
Napoleon's ruthlessness,
Yeah.
Squealer's mastery of propaganda,
Oh, yeah.
Boxer's just tragic loyalty.
Yeah.
They become these archetypes
Right.
of power dynamics
Yeah.
that I think resonate far beyond the pages of the book.
Don't even get me started on the whole 4 legs good, 2 legs bad chant.
Oh, yeah.
The way it slowly morphs. Right.
Into something far more sinister,
Yeah.
mirroring the way language is manipulated to control thought.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's still relevant today.
It's absolutely relevant today. I mean, the pigs' manipulation of language,
Right.
rewriting the 7 commandments to serve their own interests,
Yeah,
that has chilling parallels in our modern world.
it does.
Think about the ways that information is controlled and spun,
Mm-hmm.
how narratives are shaped to influence public opinion.
Yeah.
Orwell was warning us about this back in the 1940s.
It's like he saw it coming.
Yeah.
And it's that manipulation, that distortion of truth,
Yes.
that leads us, I think, to 1984.
1984.
If Animal Farm was a warning shot,
Yeah.
1984 feels like a full-blown dystopian nightmare.
It really does.
Big Brother, the thought police, telescreens.
Right.
It's like Orwell took all of his anxieties
Yeah.
about totalitarianism
Mhm.
and just like amplified them.
And remember, he was writing this just after World War II,
Right.
when the world had really witnessed the horrors
Yeah.
of fascism and Stalinism
Yeah.
firsthand.
Yeah.
So 1984 wasn't just some futuristic fantasy.
Right.
It reflected, I think, the very real anxieties of that time.
And it still resonates today,
It does.
especially that feeling of constant surveillance.
Oh, yeah.
Winston's paranoia.
Yeah.
The sense that someone's always watching, listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's unsettling how much it mirrors
Right.
our current reality.
And think about that concept of doublethink.
Yeah.
The ability to hold 2 completely contradictory beliefs simultaneously and accept both as true.
Yeah.
Orwell uses that to really illustrate how totalitarian regimes control thought.
It's easy to dismiss it as something that only happens
Right.
in dystopian novels.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, don't we see doublethink happening all around us?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the way political rhetoric often contradicts reality.
Yeah.
How information is selectively presented to fit a certain narrative.
Right.
Orwell would argue that our susceptibility to doublethink
Yeah.
is exactly what makes us vulnerable to manipulation.
And then there's Newspeak,
Oh,
the official language of Oceania,
Right.
designed to limit thought
Yeah.
by reducing the number of words people can use.
Exactly. Orwell understood the power of language, how it can be used not just to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
but to control.
Yeah.
And Newspeak, I think, was this chilling reminder of that. By limiting language, the party could essentially limit thought,
Right.
eliminating the possibility of dissent.
It's like he's showing us
Yes.
how language shapes our understanding of the world,
Mhm.
how even the words we use
Yeah.
can be tools of oppression.
And let's not forget the Ministry of Truth,
Oh, yeah.
where history is constantly rewritten to
Right.
align with the party's agenda.
Right.
Winston's job is literally to destroy evidence
I know.
and fabricate new truths.
Yeah. It's that scene where Winston finds that photograph,
Oh, yeah.
heaving the innocence of certain party members.
Yeah.
That always gets me.
Yeah.
He has proof
Right.
that the party is lying,
Yeah.
yet he's forced to destroy it. The truth is right there in his hands.
Right.
But it doesn't matter.
And that, I think, encapsulates the really insidious nature of totalitarian regimes.
Okay.
It's not just about brute force.
Okay.
It's about control over information.
Right.
It's about the ability to dictate what is true
Yeah.
and what is not.
And in that world,
Yeah.
individual experiences,
Mhm.
personal memories,
Yeah.
even love itself
Right.
become dangerous.
They do.
Which brings us to Julia,
Yeah.
this incredibly complex character.
She is a fascinating character
Yeah.
because Julia represents this rebellion
Yeah.
against the party's control over every aspect of life
Yeah.
in this world devoid of personal freedoms, she seeks out joy,
Right.
pleasure, human connection. Their affair becomes this act of defiance, a reclaiming of their humanity in this otherwise very dehumanizing world.
It's like a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Amidst all that oppression.
It is.
But even that is ultimately crushed by the party. Room 101. That final betrayal. It's just heartbreaking.
Oh, it really is. It's like Orwell is reminding us.
Yeah.
That even love can be twisted and manipulated by a system that demands absolute control.
Absolutely.
And we think about these characters, you know, Winston and Julia.
Right.
And it's hard not to feel that sense of hopelessness that the individual can't win against such a powerful force.
And that's where I think the true horror of 1984 really lies.
Okay.
It's not just about the physical oppression.
Right. It's about that psychological manipulation that really breaks down the individual's spirit.
Right.
Forces them to love Big Brother. Even as they're being crushed by the system.
It makes you wonder. If we were in Winston's shoes, how long could we hold on to our own sense of self, our own values in the face of that kind of pressure?
It's a chilling thought experiment.
It is.
And one that I think Orwell is really challenging us to consider. I mean, look at Winston's neighbors, the Parsons family. They fully embrace the party's ideology. They turn in their own children to the thought police.
It's a reminder of how easily we can become complicit in our own oppression.
Absolutely.
How fear and conformity can blind us to injustice. We might think, oh, that could never happen to me.
Right.
But Orwell makes us question that.
He really does. And then there's that ending.
Oh, gosh,
Winston's complete and utter surrender to Big Brother, his acceptance that 2 + 2 = 5, his betrayal of Julia. It's devastating. Orwell doesn't offer us any easy answers here. There are no comforting resolutions.
It leaves you with this lingering sense of unease. A feeling that we're all capable of being Winston under the right circumstances.
Or maybe the wrong circumstances.
Right.
But I think by exploring that darkness, by confronting those uncomfortable truths, maybe we can arm ourselves against them.
So where do we go from here? I mean, we've journeyed through Orwell's experiences. From the depths of poverty in Paris and London to the coal mines of Wigan Pier to the battlefields of Spain and the dystopian world of 1984.
What's the takeaway?
What's it all mean for us?
What does it all mean?
Today.
Well, I think it's important to remember that Orwell wasn't just writing about these specific historical events. He was exploring these timeless themes. The abuse of power, the dangers of totalitarianism, the importance of individual freedom. And those themes are as relevant today as they were decades ago.
It's like you said earlier, he's holding up a mirror to society, forcing us to confront these uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
And I think it's not just about recognizing the problems. It's about doing something about them.
So how do we do that?
Well, I think Orwell's work is a call to action. It's a reminder that we can't be passive observers. We have a responsibility to be informed, to think critically, to question authority, and to speak out against injustice.
To be vigilant. In defense of our own freedom.
Absolutely.
And the freedom of others.
That's a pretty good note to end on, I think, don't you?
I think so.
Yeah. And, you know, as you go about your day-to-day, right? Consuming information from all these different sources, engaging in conversations online and in person, just remember Orwell's warnings. Ask yourself, are there subtle ways in which my own thinking is being shaped? Am I truly free? Or am I just playing my part in a system that increasingly resembles that dystopian world that Orwell imagined?
It's a lot to ponder.
It is.
But as you said, Orwell's work demands more.
It does.
Than just passive reading. It demands that we engage, that we question, and that we never stop fighting.
Absolutely.
For a better, freer world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well